Hi, I'm Laura Klopp, and in this podcast, Creating Safe Schools, I'll be exploring ways that teachers and administrators can make their schools as safe, welcoming, and affirming as possible. I'll interview members of the LGBTQ community to allow them to share their experiences and to allow us as allies to learn from them. I'll talk with legal experts, administrators, teachers, and we'll hear from the students themselves. Together, we can do our part to ensure that every student at school feels safe, confident, and secure. For more information on this topic, visit creatingsafeschools.com. This interview is part one of my conversation with Alex, Sienna, and Jasmine. Hi, today I'm speaking with Alex, a transgender male who uses the pronouns he, they, Sienna, a pansexual who uses the pronoun she, her, and Jasmine, a bisexual female who uses the pronoun she, her. Thank you all for joining me.
Hello.
Hello. I'm glad you guys are here today with me. I really appreciate your time.
Of course.
All right, so I'm going to start with the term pansexual, Sienna. That's not a term a lot of people are familiar with. What would you say using the term pansexual means to you?
Okay, so the way I see it, a lot of people use the term bisexual for both male and female, and that includes transgender males and females as well. And there's actually been a lot of I wouldn't say controversy, but sort of disagreements as to what pansexual is and if it's better than bisexual or something like that. But it's a broader term to describe, I guess, bisexuality almost. It's just what most people would prefer, because some people think that, oh, if you're bisexual, that doesn't include trans people or anyone else, when that's not the case. So people tend to get confused. So I decided to use pansexual instead, just so that I can show that it doesn't matter, who you are, what form you take, I'm interested in you, that sort of thing.
Okay, so it's kind of I think the derivation of the word pan is all encompassing or everything. So it may just mean you don't look at physical or gender distinctions. You look at who a person is as a person.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so for all of you, and you can jump in or you can take turns, how was the journey was there a period of time where you realized that your gender or sexual identity was different from what most people assumed, and that you felt a disconnect, or how did you come into realizing your gender and sexual identity, and what was that process like for you? If you all aren't sure who to start, I can pick someone. Alex, I got sound from you.
I could go. I have I have a lot to say about that kind of thing. It's kind of been interesting. Because a lot of it I found is just kind of hindsight. There's a lot of things I've realized now that it's oh, that was a pretty obvious sign that I was different, but I never really picked up on it. And it was definitely with the support of friends and gentle coaxing that I was able to actually get introspective and realize, hey, this, I might not be normal, it's a little bit different. So a lot of it's just kind of hindsight. You realize it later. And it sort of, the realization comes off of having a good support system who's willing to talk with you about certain things.
Was there a time when you had the realization, but you still felt like it was something you couldn't share with everyone in your life?
There was definitely a group of people I couldn't share it with. And that caused a little bit of turmoil within me because, it was just, I needed to really make sure this was who I am.
Yeah.
And it was kind of interesting. I remember back when I was first learning about the community, I came across, I was looking up all the different things and their meanings. And I remember seeing transgenderism, and I was there's no way I could be that. That would never pass or fly in my family. And of course, inevitably, that's exactly what ended up happening. The one that I was I can't, if anything else, that can't be it.
But
Um,
how does your family, did your family knows now?
yeah, they know now. It's not been easy. Yeah, it went pretty much how I thought it was going to go.
Do you feel like they're trying to understand and it's difficult? Or, I mean, like, where do you think they're at in the journey of understanding?
So it's kind of been intermixed. Actually, the first few days, my mother was a bit more trying to understand where I'm coming from. Maybe she was a little sad for me because I had to go through this. And I thought we were going to make some real progress, but it sort of backtracked. So it's sort of just, there's a lot of highs and lows. It's entirely up to how much they're willing to listen to you, or if they're going to choose to believe you or not.
All right, how old are you now?
I'm 18.
You're 18. Are you still at home?
I am.
You are. Okay, so they didn't kick you out, so that's good. I mean,
They did not. Yeah, that's definitely one positive.
yeah, yeah, and they initially maybe tried to work to understand, and then maybe it felt like it was harder than they thought it would be. You think that's
Yeah, it's well, I'm from a conservative Christian family. I myself am Christian, which makes things a little bit more difficult. But it sort of went from them trying to understand, and I think they were holding on to the hope that maybe I'd realize it wasn't me or something like that. And now that those efforts aren't working, they're kind of taking it not well.
I'm sorry that sounds difficult. I know support is
Yeah.
a huge part of the journey. Um, Now, how about for you, Jasmine? How did your experience of recognizing who you were and being open about or not being open about that with your family and your friends and the people around you? How did that go for you?
Well, I grew up in the lovely conservative Utah, and so being gay wasn't like a good thing. Well, I was in a pretty big community of gay people, but we were all quite closeted. And so all of us had sort of a shared internalized homophobia till about 10th grade when we decided, heck, may as well be gay if all of us are. So I had sort of a terrible experience until then, because it's nice to have a big supporting community. And then after that, it's all just happy, fun, gay times with, of course, the underlying fear of being outed to like the church and that kind of stuff.
Right. Has that happened for you yet, that you've been outed to the church and or your family?
Yeah, my mom is friends with a priest. And so he knows, but he was actually really nice and accepting of it. My mother is not, and that is why she doesn't know, and she probably never will.
Your mom's not a regular part of your life, right? Like on a daily basis?
Yeah, my parents are divorced, and my mom currently lives in Japan.
How does your dad feel about your coming out?
I think he thinks it's unfortunate that I most likely will not have biological children, but for the most part, he doesn't care.
So it's still a supportive family environment for you?
Yeah.
And then Sienna, what was your journey like?
From a very young age, I always knew that I was different. You know, I felt attraction towards pretty much everyone, and I noticed that from a young age. And I had heard growing up a little bit, like in elementary school, that being gay wasn't a good thing, and that it just was looked down on. And so I kind of just kept it to myself for a while. But eventually, when my sister was kind of like, I wouldn't say like outed, but she was just more open to telling our family that she, you know, liked girls too and stuff like that, I was like, well, I guess it's fine then. And I just accepted it as part of myself. That never ever went away, and I didn't have any sort of doubt with it. And my mom is very supportive of this sort of thing. She is accepting of everyone, anything, doesn't matter. So when she found out, she basically said, "Oh, I know."
Okay.
Yeah, I had gone to a Valentine's Day dance with a girl, and she just looked at the pictures and she knew right away that there was something. And ever since then, she's been fine with it. The only people who I was worried about was my grandpa and my uncle, but my grandma is accepting of things, and she is religious, as am I. I'm a Christian, and growing up with her teachings of religion, she just told me to love everyone, forgive and accept. And it's all just been like a really nice, warm thing. And I'm really happy I had that sort of influence. And my brother was like that too. He was also Christian. And when he found out that I was gay, he just said, "I knew it." Like,
that's exactly what happened to my daughter. That's exactly what happened to my daughter.
Everyone knew. So it just, it ended up with like zero, like, not much craziness there. And when my grandpa found out, he had an interesting thing about it. He was actually like kind of happy in a way.
Because you were willing to be yourself?
The reasoning was funny.
Yeah, the actual reasoning is because he was afraid of me dating men, and because my mom had like a very troubled past with men, so he didn't want me dating them. So when he heard I was gay, he was like, "Oh, thank goodness. Okay, well, at least it's that."
All right. Well, and I'm gonna say, like, so many people nowadays, you hear Christianity being used in this concept of being anti-LGBTQ as if that's, oh, well, here's a reason. And yet, and I'm not Christian, although I deeply admire the teachings of Christ and my understanding of what was actually taught in Christianity as opposed to the interpretation is that it's non-judgmental. It's not any of our right to judge or decide who is or isn't. Like, that's not our role. Like, our role, just like you said, is to love people and support people. And that's it, full stop.
Yeah, I definitely get that. And it's been a bit of a struggle for me because I've been torn between two sides of the religion I grew up with. And I have one side telling me that I have to listen to the hard truth and that I can't be who I am. And then I have another side telling me that it's completely fine. So it's just hard to know who to trust about things. So I'm really happy when people get the support they need from Christianity and don't have to deal with that.
Right. And hopefully you can find a church when you get to the point where you're independent and can find your own church where it's full support, all support, and you don't have that conflict.
Mm-hmm.
Alex and Sienna, you two are dating, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're almost 2 years in now.
Oh, wow.
Coming like in May 1st.
Yep.
Quite a milestone.
It's been interesting with my family because, when we first started dating, it was just, me and I kind of referred to them as like a different person compared to how Alex is now.
Yeah, it was a different time.
Yeah. It was before he made like that sort of self-discovery. And the only problem that I faced with my family in terms of that is that my grandpa and my uncle would not like me dating a trans person because they don't they think it's weird. They think it's just unnatural, and they're just not really they don't want any part of that for me. But my grandma is okay with it. My mom's okay with it. My sister's okay with it. It's, yeah.
Do they know? I mean, Alex, have you spent time with Sienna's family? Do you guys hang out together at all?
I have. There's been some occasions where I go over there and I've talked with her family, not as much her grandparents. I haven't seen them in a while, but and her family's like in full support of me and making sure I'm staying safe and a whole bunch of stuff like that. So it's been positive in that note. They're very supportive of me.
Yeah, that's my thinking is like, Sienna, even with your grandfather and your uncle say not supporting the concept of being transgender, I wonder if spending time with Alex and taking away the concept as a theoretical thing and making it here's an actual person, get to know this person. And I would think that would maybe remove some of, because you're like, oh, okay, this is a person and it's a really nice person. It's a cool person. And I like this person, stepping away from any of the definitions.
Yeah, I agree with that definitely, because Alex has met my uncle and grandparents before, and they'd always talk about like, oh, she's such a great kid. Like, I love her and stuff like that. Like, he's great. I'm glad that you two are friends.
I mean, technically, I'm still the same person, or I guess I'm a little different now. But I mean,
right. I mean, I will say in terms of you being different, Alex, because I knew you beforehand, or at least I didn't know. I don't know if it was before you knew or I just didn't know.
It was honestly before I knew. Okay. When I was talking to you about things, I was actually still dealing with a lot of internalized homophobia. And it was around that time that I started realizing I liked women. So it was definitely before all that.
And I'm going to say, when you just said that you're not exactly the same, when I've seen you this year at school, I have seen you as more confident and outgoing as I had seen you. The change I saw in you was a very positive change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's sort of a thing where, I mean, I think my parents struggle to see that because they only know the shallow small talk I've given them, like that version of me. They only know that. So they think I'm doing a terrible thing. But when I'm around people who support me, I really do flourish. I feel like I'm meant to be like that. That is me. And,
right.
It's been an interesting experience, but I'm definitely glad you see that.
Oh, 100%. I mean, it was startling and it was a really wonderful thing to see, because when we knew each other, I worried about you somewhat, because I did feel like you were conflicted and I didn't know why. Like, I didn't know what was going on. I just felt like you had a lot of conflict and it was interfering with your self-confidence. And then when I saw you so self-confident and I saw you being, hi, I'm Alex, I was like, oh, okay. Like, bam, I understand now. And it all makes sense.
Yeah. I was definitely very excited that day. I think I like stumbled over and like definitely didn't explain myself well the first time.
It didn't matter. I was so excited to see you and so excited to see you being happy and confident. I mean, you know, I would never care. Like, to me, you are you. You are you, and you're all. Yeah, it's just I hope you knew I would not think anything but that I was happy for you.
Yeah, of course. I did realize that. It was very exciting because seeing you again was really good, just because I knew you would be like the first person to jump on the bandwagon and support me. And I was really excited to tell you about it, because it's like, look, I've grown since I last saw you. And I would definitely say you're a big part in that growth and acceptance, just from hearing you talk to other students about themselves.
Thank you. And I'm getting a little bit teary now. Okay, so Jasmine, you graduated 2 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And so you're UCF now, but you're online. So how much interaction do you have? I'm wondering about the high school, because Alex and Sienna, you're both still in high school, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jasmine, you're in college. How would you compare the high school experience in terms of support and lack of support and the environment overall versus the college experience, which Jasmine, you've had both because you said that you were out in high school and then now you're in college, although it's online. So I'm kind of, because the whole purpose of my site and my podcast and the core of it is to make schools safer and more accepting places, because I really don't care. I mean, I do care what someone's inherent beliefs are. And if they're bigoted or hateful, I care about that. But overall, as a teacher, you don't only protect the students who you agree with or who you say, oh, what they believe or are doing aligns with my beliefs. You protect every student. And my goal is to really make schools places where every student feels accepted and protected. So speak to that in terms of school for either Jasmine for your transition, or Alex and Sienna, how school is for you now.
Jasmine, do you want to start?
Sure. I'm not sure if I represent like all the UCF college students, but for the most part, I think UCF's super accepting. Like in all my writing classes, I've been able to find like people just out there, people who have their pronouns on the programs online, so you can see their pronouns. And in most of my writing classes, a lot of the romance stories are actually LGBT. It's been really nice.
Now, how did you find high school? Because you came out in high school. It's from what you said before, it sounded like. So how was that experience for you when you were in high school? Was everyone that surrounded you accepting, or did you find there were bullies, there were unaccepting people at school that you had to deal with on a regular basis?
In Utah, it was like even though I was out, it was still like a closeted kind of out, because there are a lot of people who are accepting. Like I think Mormons are a lot more accepting than people think they are. There are still people with very strong beliefs against the LGBT community. So there'd be people like, oh, you're going to hell, or you're a sin, and that kind of stuff. And I was really scared when I moved here to Florida, because like it's the South and all the bigoted haters. But there were a surprisingly large number of LGBT kids when I was at the high school. Like I'd be walking between classes and people would be like, I think I'm bisexual. And I'm like, oh.
Revelations in the 5 minutes between classes.
Yeah, like walking up steps and the guys behind me are like, I think I'm gay, bro. So I think it was
awesome. That's actually really good. I mean, I'm going to say that particular school environment, I think, is a positive one overall relative to some other schools I've heard about.
To keep it short real quick, I've had similar experiences like that where there was a recent experience like yesterday where I was talking with some guys from class and I ended up telling them I was like transgender and I used like he, they and whatnot. And after class, like one of them walked up to me and was like, hey, I think I'm bisexual. Like, do you want to like talk about that with me sometime? And it was so sweet to see because I think there's just a lot of internalized homophobia people have been struggling with. Mm-hmm. I mean, the environment of the school this year is a little different than what I think it was with Jasmine's year, but.
Do you think that there's been emboldening because of the laws?
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely say probably. And beyond that, I think COVID really messed things up because I feel like half of people went and were like, they made these realizations over the quarantine. And then the other half of people just, I don't really know what happened, but there was a lot of hate that came after people started going back to school. Everything just felt really tense and fights were breaking out and there was a lot of homophobia going on and people were getting like attacked and it was not good. I don't exactly know what brought it on, but
Yeah.
So did you guys personally experience hate or violence or targeted bullying directed at you, Alex and Sienna, coming back after COVID?
Definitely a bit. Nothing super intense, but yeah.
Yeah, it's been just like name calling, that sort of thing, like little scoffs or even getting barked at.
There's a lot of like microaggression that happens. Things that are too quick to actually report.
Yeah, unnecessary like inappropriate remarks, like we're just doing our own thing, walking to class or whatever, and somebody will come up and just say something just completely unnecessary. Yeah.
How does that, just as someone, for the people out there who kind of say, oh, it's not a big deal, oh, it's fine, how does it make you feel when someone you don't know or someone you barely know feels emboldened to say something negative or rude or just designed to make your day worse when you're just going about your day? Like, what does that do to you?
Well, it doesn't hurt me. Like, I don't feel hurt by it. If anything, it just kind of makes me mad. Like, it's really not your business. You could keep yourself to yourself or trying not to intrude on anyone else. You wouldn't say the same thing to a cis straight couple who is doing the same things. And it's just kind of, it's so easy to just not do that.
Right. It's so easy to just be nice, yeah. Right? To just not. Right. Exactly.
Yeah, definitely.
So how are your teachers? How do you find your teachers respond? And do you ask your teachers to use your preferred pronouns, change your name in the books? And how, I know that that's something you can do there at the school, that you can change your name in signing into the computer to your preferred name, and that your graduation certificate will actually come out in your preferred name and your legal name, so that should you legally change your name. I know that there's some real progress being made there. How do you find your teachers respond overall?
I'll take it real quick, and then maybe Sienna could talk about it too.
You don't have to be quick, by the way. Like I like hearing your perspective. I'm not going anywhere. So tell me your perspective, and then everyone can have time. Yeah.
So I'm actually the president of the Gay Straight Alliance at the school. So I've been working with a lot of teachers to try and, make some strides. Recently, I suppose it makes it easier because it used to be where you would just kind of wait for a week and listen to the teachers and get their vibe, and then maybe you'd come out to them if you felt comfortable enough to do so. But now the teacher who oversees the club at the school, she's been making tags that people wear on their lanyards that says, like, I'm here, and it shows a bunch of different flags, and it makes it really easy for those kids who are LGBT to feel safe and like, oh wow, I could talk to this person about it. And I feel like it genuinely has helped. It's really a great thing. And the teachers have actually been pretty good. There's definitely a circle of support, and even if the teacher is normally biased against it, usually they will do their best to respect your name and pronouns. There are some, of course, that don't or won't try, but there's at least an effort, I've noticed. Yeah.
How about you, Sienna? Do you notice the same thing? Does it feel like there's an attempt to make an effort?
Yeah, I definitely see it. I have a little bit more of an outside perspective, simply because I don't go up to teachers and ask them to use different pronouns since I was born female, and I use she, her and stuff. But looking at it from the outside and the changes that it's made with people, like it's really like heartwarming, and I can feel the vibes coming from these teachers, and it's really great to see them trying, and they even talk about it to other students just like randomly in class about these certain topics, especially like the
bill.
Yeah, the
don't
bill.
Say gay.
Don't say gay bill.
Don't say gay. Yeah. Like one of my teachers even just started talking about that, and all the students in the class agreed, like, yeah, it's so dumb and all that stuff. So
yeah, it's sort of a thing I've noticed, like with the population of the school, is of course you have the outspoken homophobes, but I feel like there's a decent majority of people who are just kind of quiet and accepting. Mm-hmm. And you don't really get to see it unless there's conversations.
As I think is the case with most of society, actually. Like, there's the loud people who will complain, and I think most people are quietly accepting. And I think that that's I think that's something that unfortunately the loud voices will drown out all too often.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely have some friends and acquaintances who tend to focus on the negatives of things, and will sometimes get caught up in the fact that, society hates us or stuff like that. But if you just look a little closer, I've definitely noticed there's a lot of acceptance going on. Of course, like, it's not perfect, absolutely not, but it's better than I thought it was. And there's definitely strides being made to make school feel a little safer, like even with guidance and counselors and whatnot. It's been a nice thing to see.
Yeah, it's been really great. And just sort of like adding on to what Jasmine was talking about earlier with like college and it being like more accepting and stuff. I've noticed that too. I take EFSC classes and I read a lot of like papers and stuff about LGBT, and I've written papers on LGBT, and I see a lot of like she, her, he, him, and they stuff like on their profiles, and it's just really inclusive, especially in just like my composition and writing classes.
So, I mean, I think a lot of change comes from the top. And one thing I will say is I've spoken with students at different schools, and the principal at your school is an extremely supportive principal of all students, is my belief. And
yeah, definitely
worked. And I've seen school environments where the principal sets the tone that ends up not being supported, where teachers who do have homophobic inclinations and transphobic inclinations can act on those because they feel like their administration won't care or will even support them. And I think that anyone who wants to create a safe school environment needs to look at the leadership. And I think that y'all have great leadership, which which makes me very happy.
Yeah. Sometimes some students I've talked to feel like things aren't being done fast enough. But on the other hand, as someone who's like talked with our principal and talked with our counselors often about concerns, I mean, it's sort of just crazy and it's hard to get things done from that standpoint. But the fact is, I have seen them trying. Sure, not everything can be done. Like, I've been working on trying to get some more gender neutral bathrooms in the school, and that hasn't really happened yet. But I've definitely noticed a tone shift. Things feel a lot safer than they did at the start of the year, which is a big bonus because I remember the first few weeks of school, we were all kind of just fearful in a way.
Yeah, it was awful.
Yeah, not a good time.
And you can't learn. You can't learn if you don't feel safe. I mean, and that's the thing that I think people, even principals who are inherently homophobic or transphobic, need to realize. Their job is for their students to feel safe. And principals are evaluated on student performance and on student absenteeism and on student graduation rates. And all of those things go down when a significant portion of your student population feels unsafe at school and unwelcome at school.
I definitely agree. Like, it's really subtle. Like, the changes have been very subtle, but even then, that little bit of some small signs of support really make a huge difference. And I mean, it sounds like it wouldn't, but there's really a different like feeling in the air kind of thing. When you walk around, everything just feels a little better.
When editing the podcast, at Alex's request, I removed several mentions of his dead name. He hadn't realized in advance that it would be difficult and uncomfortable to hear that name mentioned, but after realizing, he asked me to delete the references. Well, that's it for me today. As always, thank you for listening to Creating Safe Schools. Hear more podcasts at creatingsafeschools.com/podcasts. Stay safe, be kind, and have a great day.